Sebi. And this brother right here is a powerful soldier. This is the best place to teach what he's going to come and bring to you right now. And that is none other than our brother, KT the Arts Degree. Come on up, give it up for our brother. KT the Arts Degree, the red pill and blue pill little brother.
Peace, family. What's going on? Peace. We'll say that one more time. Peace, people. Peace. What's going on? We in a raw juice bar right now. So even if you ain't had nothing, you got the energy. We're going to do it one more again. Black Power's up in here. March was today. We in D.C. What's going on, people? Hey. There we go. There we go. All right. So look. The message that I got a lot of messages, but this is what I'm going to talk about tonight. Everything in our community is based upon a certain dynamic. We got elders, we got youth, and we got a bridge that's in between, which we pretty much fall in that category. Now, a lot of the information that we get from our elders, we find out through reading their books or hearing about it from other people because the elder is no longer here. Now, why isn't the elder no longer here? Because most of the elders that we have spend so much energy and so much time researching, studying, putting the information together that they neglect to take care of themselves. And we think because we're so starstruck by how powerful that they are and the legacy that they left, that they don't even need any help. So they end up transcending on because health is usually the last thing on their mind. And they pass that down to us because we start following what they did and we don't think health is very important. So today I'm at the march and I'm seeing all these people, millions of people out here, right? And I'm like, yo, what if we started talking about knowing ourselves truly today? Like what we're supposed to do with our bodies. Because we don't give our body any credit. We wanted to do all the work that our mind thinketh, but we don't want to replenish and give it anything. Now, like the brother said, I was raised by Dr. Sebi as a child. And if anybody's familiar with Dr. Sebi, he always spoke about electric foods. Foods are electric, eat the electric foods. Now, what does that mean? When you think about that, you think, oh, I'm eating this food and it's going to shock me. It's going to fill me full of energy. It's going to get me charged and ready to go. But it's not just that. He literally meant the foods were electric, like there was electricity in the foods. And what do we mean by that? Well, when you look at plant-based diets, meaning that you're eating foods that's based on plants, what you're doing is you're now interfacing with a property that allows you to get the energy or the vibration from the sun into your body. The plant is fully equipped to take the photons, the energy from the sun, take that light and split water. So what that means is, we all know we get oxygen from plants and trees in order to breathe, right? But what if I told you we don't get oxygen from plants? We get oxygen from water. See, plants are here to oxidize water, meaning they split water molecules and release oxygen as a waste product as we do carbon dioxide. So leaves are our gills. So, you know, we talk about the Dogon and the Nomos and the fish people. Yeah, we the fish people, because when you have a plant-based diet, or if you're eating meat, don't matter, you're breathing oxygen from plants that pull that out of the water that's here on this planet. Okay? Now, the second thing that plants do is they do something called carbon fixation, where they're able to take carbon dioxide, the waste product, our waste, and fixate it into glucose, into a solid structure that we can use as fuel. So we're talking about electricity, we're talking about light coming from the sun, encouraging this to happen. The waste product we produce, they grabbing that and turning that into sugar so that it can fuel our body. So when we're eating this raw food, that's what we're doing. We're getting the electricity inside of our body. Now, this is something that I came to the conclusion of, and I know a lot of people might not agree with it, but we got two types of cells. We got eukaryotic cells and we got prokaryotic cells, right? Okay, eukaryotic cells are multicellular organisms. We talking animals and plants, right? Okay, and then over here we got prokaryotic, which is single cell, meaning that it's dealing with bacteria, right? Single cell organisms. Now, what are we categorized at? Most people would categorize us as animals. I don't specifically do that, but that's what man has done. They say we fall in the animal kingdom underneath mammals, right? Okay, so we're trying to get energy from our environment. So in order to get energy, we have to eat substances, we have to eat cells. So we have a choice. We can either eat the animal eukaryotic cell, or we can eat the plant eukaryotic cell. But the funny thing is, you're an animal too, they say, right? So what does that classify you as then? Say that again, brother?
Cannibal.
A cannibal. Because you're eating your same species.
Right.
See, that's why we were giving two types of eukaryotic cells, so that we can get our energy from plant-based eukaryotic cells that provide energy rather than animal-based eukaryotic cells that provide disease, lack of energy, lack of light. So I'm not here to bash anybody who's eating animals or anything like that. You eat what you eat, but I would definitely tell you to include the plants into your diet. The more fruits, the more greens, the more whatever you can put into your diet, the better. All right? You got to understand that. Another thing, he always talked about starch being very detrimental to our body. More specifically, he would talk about cassava. Cassava has a protein in it called linamarin that when it goes inside your digestive system, it turns into cyanide. Now, he used to always say, oh, you eat too much starch, you get cyanide poisoning. And everybody be like, what you talking about? Especially people from the islands, because in Africa and the Caribbean, everybody eats cassava or yuca. So they would think he was crazy. But he would say, too much starch equates to cyanide, equates to you going insane in your brain. Well, the studies show that there is a protein inside yuca that when it hits our digestive system converts into cyanide, which then inhibits your mitochondria from producing the energy known as ATP. So if you're not producing energy, then you're dead. So he knew what he was talking about. So a lot of the information that he talked about all those years ago, you know, all those things are coming into fruition now. So what I'm getting into and what I like to talk to people about is the importance of digestion. Because now, okay, we're eating the right foods. Are we absorbing the nutrients out of the foods that we're eating? That's the next thing we have to think about. Because if we're constipated or if our stools are as long as an anaconda, then that means, guess what? We ain't getting nothing out of what we ate. So how do we increase the absorption? Well, in your intestines and inside your gut, you have something called the microbiome. Has anybody heard of the microbiome?
Yeah.
Nobody's heard of the microbiome. Microbiome is another organ in your body that consists of a population of bacteria. See, virus and bacteria has always been seen as a bad and negative thing. But I always compare it to a child. If I had a child here and a child here, and they had to grow and develop, and I gave this child nothing but love and light, good food, energy, attention, respect, and this one I gave the exact opposite. As they develop and as they grow, what differences would you notice between the two children? Come on, people. What would we notice between the two children?
One has growth.
Complexion, height. What else? Intellect, respect, right? One would have more of an aggressive, violent disposition. The other one would be more of a humble. So the bacteria inside your colon is the same way. So when you eat specific foods, what you're doing is you're feeding the bacteria in your gut the wrong things, which then has the bacteria change and start to produce chemicals based upon what you gave it. So if I have a friend of mine and all I do is talk nonsense to them, curse them out, then I can't be mad when they respond back to me with that negative energy. That's the same thing that happens with the gut bacteria. So they're able to do that. They take the proper foods that you give them, and they're able to give that energy back to you. The second thing that they're able to do is, most people don't want to deal with a vegetarian diet because they say, oh, you don't digest everything. You don't digest the cellulose. You don't digest the fiber. That's another thing that's not true. Our body may not digest the fiber or the cellulose, but the bacteria does. And when the bacteria consumes the cellulose and the fiber, they synthesize the very vitamins that the healthcare industry says you can only get from meats, such as B12 and short-chain fatty acids and things of that nature. So you're eating for two when you eat your food. Another thing you should do when you eat your food is you should visualize the process as you're doing it, because most of us is eating as we're going. We might have just got done with an argument, you know what I'm saying? We might be watching something on television that where its contents is manipulating your psychology, and you're putting all that energy into the act of digestion, which takes more energy than any other process in your body. Which means you should really sit down and eat in peace and quiet. That's why that whole dinner table scene where everybody kind of comes together after the end of the day is the best thing, because everybody's sitting and they're quiet and they're exchanging information and ideas that they gained during the day for everybody to grow. At the same time, you visualize the food going down your throat. You visualize what your stomach has to do, what your duodenum and your ileum and your jejunum have to do, what your colon has to do, what your pancreas, what your gallbladder, what your liver has to do. All these different mechanisms are included in this process of digestion, and you don't even have to think about it. But see, that's almost ignorant, because by you not having to think about it don't mean that you don't need to put your attention on it and intention behind it. And if you do that, you'll have a more efficient way of digesting your food so that you actually extract and assimilate the properties that you are eating. Because that's the whole point. Why do we eat in the first place? And let me hear it from y'all. Why do y'all eat?
Energy.
Energy. Simply put, where's the most dynamic force and energy at? No, not food. Where's the most dynamic source of energy? The sun. The sun. So we don't get sun energy directly like we used to. So now we have to get it secondhand, and the best way to do it is through a eukaryotic cell that is plant-based. And through the cell wall, we have cellulose so that the bacteria in our microbiome will synthesize the vitamins that they say we can only get from flesh and fungal-based hormones that they generate in a pharmaceutical company. And another thing they do is give you pure, unadulterated electricity in your body. So that these elders that are getting on this stage and giving us this information and writing these books to give us this information will still be here when our children are born, so we can take them to the elder and they can exchange. Because see, that thing has been cut. All right? So, another thing that I would encourage everybody to do, because we're in metropolis and we're in cities, is start getting to know the wild plant life that grows in your area. See, I'm lucky enough to be from Atlanta. I don't even have to buy anything from the store if I don't want to. I can strictly go out in different areas of Atlanta and harvest herbs and harvest fruits and harvest vegetables that grow wild, because I can identify them, I know how to prepare them, I know what to do with them. Every environment that y'all stay in, you have natural, wild plants growing in your area. Once again, I'm not telling y'all to stop eating certain things. I can't make you do that in one night. It's a process. However, what you can do is you can start including certain properties inside your regimen so that you can get a more efficient way of eating your food and getting the energy that you need. All right? So we got I did a video not too long ago. A lot of people saw about the black walnut tree. And the black walnut tree grows wild down the whole East Coast. We talking from Maine all the way down to Florida. And right now they're actually falling off the tree. So you could do two things. You can grab the husks that are falling off the tree and make tinctures. Or you can grab the husks and dry them out and extract the black walnut from inside. If you make the tincture is going to be high in a property called iodine that we thought we can only get from sea vegetables, but black walnut is actually an inland plant that provides just a sufficient amount of iodine that we need. All right? And then it also provides vitamin C, and it also provides something called tannins and juglidine. The tannins can be used by the sisters to dye their hair. So instead of going out and buying all the hair dye, you can make your own hair dye at home, and it also is a substitute for henna to do the designs on your body. And that grows right on the tree. So there's so many plants and so many trees that are out here that y'all can prescribe to that can help you with your conditions and help you with everything that you need to do, where you don't have to 100% depend upon all the companies out here. All right? So electric foods, microbiome, bacteria is necessary in the body. All right? My brother Inky talks about horizontal gene transfer, which is the truth, just to make it simple. Because the viruses that are responsible for replicating bacteria's genes are actually the mechanisms responsible for transmitting the DNA between your bacteria. So, to give you an example, y'all still with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, just for an example, let's say you got 10 trillion cells in your body, right? You got 10 bacteria for every one cell. Okay, so you got 100 trillion, you outnumber 10 to 1. But you're not outnumbered 10 to 1 because when you read, they always make it look like you're against somebody. No, the bacteria that is with you. So if you have a certain amount of genome based on your cells, what about the genome of that 10 to 1? So that extends the DNA that you have access to by an order of something incredible. And you're able to tap into that DNA and utilize that DNA by way of the microbiome organ that's inside your system. And you do that by feeding it properly, because then it will work properly. And what do you feed it? You feed it cellulose. Because if you're feeding post-mortem flesh that's been injected with transglutaminase, which is called meat glue, it's an isolated protein from pork and cows. They use that in order to add the color back to gray meat because the meat's been sitting for so long. And then they take different pieces of the meat and they use that transglutaminase to glue it together. So when you get a steak and you think it's one piece, it's really 16 pieces of old meat glued together. And you put that inside your body and you digest it to 30 feet of your alimentary canal as opposed to 10 feet of a carnivore. And you use alkaline enzymes instead of acidic enzymes to digest, and it goes through this process in your body, then what do you think your bacteria is going to do after it's fed something like that? Nah, it's not just going to increase, they're going to change, and then they're going to proliferate after they change, and then you're going to have yourself a serious problem. All right? So, I wanted to just come out because we're in Khepra Raw right now, and they're doing great work. You got to really give it up to the establishment, please, because they're going against the grain. Right? They talking about we don't cook our food, the sun cook our food. That sounds crazy to most people, but they up here and they're doing it and they're successful. And I want to make sure that while I was here, I can give you some information that is correlated with the establishment that we're in, so you can see just how powerful of an influence that they are. All right, so like I said, my name is KT the Arch Degree. You can check me out, Greenleaf -herbs.com. Me and Mama Pill, all our products are on there. Red Pill, you know, KTL Media, my power pieces, Ocean 14. I'm Kamani Tate on Facebook. And I'm also in the back where I have all of my powerful elements back there, my capsules, tonics and everything that I learned studying under Sabi as well as my mother. So I thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Peace.